Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG. And this month, while I'm away from home a lot, so I'm having to schedule my time a bit better, I'm working my way through various RPGs which I haven't done a rules breakdown of. So I'm covering the book on the Monday, and then I'm covering the rules on the Friday. Now this week, I'm recording this on the day of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee here in the UK. So on the day of our sovereign celebrations, I'm doing Sovereign Stone. And if you think that's a bit of a tenuous link, that's the quality you get on this channel. And if you'd like to support the channel, then there's a Patreon in the links down below. So you can help us out, or you can see these videos a week early. But anyway, over to the desktop to have a look at Sovereign Stone. So, this is Sovereign Stone, or the Sovereign Stone game system, or Elmore's Sovereign Stone game system. It doesn't seem to quite decide what it wants to be called. I like to call it just Sovereign Stone, but on the spine it's Sovereign Stone Game System. On the back it's Sovereign Stone Game System, but on the cover it's got a very prominent Elmore's. Because this is a game and world created by Larry Elmore, the incredibly good fantasy artist. He dominates the fantasy industry around role-playing, I think, creating covers for like the original Shadowrun rulebook, so many of the iconic Dungeons & Dragons pieces of artwork. He really is absolutely brilliant. And this is a game world he's created, and other people have created the game around that world and his artwork. Really interesting stuff. Now this is by Corsair Publishing, or Sovereign Press, and it came out in 1999. And it's kind of a bit different to other role-playing games. Most role-playing games just set up the world. So when you get the Lord of the Rings role-playing game, or Dungeons & Dragons, they're setting up the world in general, and your adventurers go into it. But more like the Lord of the Rings movies, Sovereign Stone is putting you into a particular time. There are evil armies on the march. The world is changing, countries will fall. Not only are the elves and dwarves and humans slightly different to other fantasy worlds, but the world itself is in flux. And it's into that world that your adventurers go. Well, let's have a look at the back cover. So, Sovereign Stone Game System. A world in peril. A savage army marches out of the west. Its soldiers, the monstrous and terrifying Tarn, have never before been seen on this continent. Dark rumours whisper that the army is being led by the evil Dagnarus, Lord of the Void, dead for 200 years. His captains are Vrykil, fearsome undead who long ago traded life for horrible immortality. The nations of Loerem, realms of the humans, the Elves, the Dwarves and the Orcs, are too involved in warring with each other to pay much attention to this new threat. But throughout the world, heroes from every race have seen the dark clouds gather. They're arming themselves with sorcery and with steel to meet this coming challenge. Join them if you dare. The game at a glance. Skill-based system. Each skill and attribute is listed as a die type, i.e. D8 in strength. Actions are rolled with an attribute dice and a skill dice. Character can exert an extra dice, but at the cost of stun points. Magic is rolled with an attribute dice and a skill dice too. You need to achieve a number of points, the spell goes off. If you didn't reach it in one form, you add your next turn's roll. The world has orcs, elves, humans and dwarves as player races, as well as a few new ones, and a really nasty set of villains. The orcs are a seafaring race, advantaged in water magic. The elves are a medieval Japanese-like race, advantaged in air magic. The dwarves are a nomadic Mongol-like race, advantaged in fire magic. The humans are a mid-European medieval-like, advantaged in earth magic. The Tarn, the void magic users, are just plain wicked. So inside, there is lots of very nice artwork. It is very nicely produced. It feels a shame that I'm going to have to hold it open here for the camera. I hope I don't break the spine. The presentation is absolutely lovely. Desktop publishing by 1999 was of a high standard. We've got a full map here, and then we're into the standard. So, welcome to the game. What is role-playing? Why roleplay? Where do people roleplay? Remember, this is just a game. Thoughts for new role players. And the game really does focus quite heavily on this being the first role-playing game that people have played. Which seems a bit unlikely, but I do like that sensibility that every game is somebody's first. So we've got current affairs. So it talks through the human empires, you know, the human kingdoms of Vinengale, Dunkarga, Karnu, Nimra, Nimora, the Dwarven lands, the Orcan lands, the Elven lands, and the forces of Dagnarus. The orders of the Keepers of Time are mentioned here as well. We go through what money is like. So we've got Conents, Argents, Domargents, Orgents, and Gold Bars. Talks about the different languages. Then we're into character creation already. Going through the steps, you're choosing a race. The character sheets are here. I find it a bit odd that they're not at the end of the book, where mostly we've got 2 character sheets, blank ones here. So we've got the Vinengalans, which are humans. The Carnuans, humans. And these are just different factions of humans. I do quite like this. The Nimrans hold 2 different realms. The Nimorian and Nimran itself. And the Nimorians. The Trevenishi. Then we've got the Elves. The Clan Dwarves, which as it mentions are nomadic hunter-gatherers. And then you've got a different type of dwarf here, the unhorsed dwarves. So basically ones which have settled down, they have a city, whereas all the others are nomadic, constantly travelling. And then we've got the Orcs, which trace their ancestry back to sea monsters known as Orca, from which they derive their name. So Orcs aren't savage creatures, they're almost aquatic creatures. You can see the style of them is slightly different to other Orcs in fantasy. A very interesting idea. We go through the attributes, the racial traits, advantages and disadvantages. Then we're on to the skills section, going through that. Lots of skills. We've got progression points, which is the experience system. We're on to the equipment, which is fairly standard. So we've got cloaks, different types of clothes, carriages, barding for your horses, different types of weapons, complexity of locks, guild equipment, so whether you get equipment from the Thieves Guild, you know, blackjacks, master keys, poisons, merchants guilds, religious and magical equipment, just breaking down the equipment into different types that your character might have. Then we're on to the rules, so how they use, and as it said on the back cover, you get a dice from your tribute and your skill, you roll those dice and add them together against a target number. But I'll go into more detail on that in a rules breakdown video I'll do for Friday. Got exerted actions, so a character can try and push a skill, exerting themselves, and take damage or take stun damage for it. We've got the health system here, order actions, so going through your movement in combat, ranges, defense. Then we're on to weapons, how much damage bonus they do. We're on to the magic system, so the Sovereign Stone, the nature of magic, spellcasting initiative, considerations in casting spells. Now, human magic, elf magic, orc magic, dwarf magic. Whether you are self-taught, whether you're familiar with the magic itself. And then we've got the spells, so the earth magic spells, the air magic spells, fire spells, water spells, and then combinations. So we've got here spells which need you to be earth and fire, and so on and so forth. Just lots of spells here. And then we've got the sort of evil ones here, you know, dispel void magic, maze of shadows. We've got a section on the Games Master, and as I said, this book is very much based around newcomers, so it's really talking through a Games Master, you know, Before the game, familiarise yourself with the rules, invite your players, prepare your first adventure, act as host, manage character creation, run your adventure, award progression points, discuss reactions to the scenario, begin preparing for next time. And it does walk you through all those in quite detail. Very nicely done. And possibly the best way I've seen this presented in many books I've looked at. I can't really think of a better one off the top of my head at the moment. We're continuing through, you know, making up adventures and plot, desire, conflict, rising actions being within reasons for or behind the plot of an adventure, campaigns, sources for adventures, how you would portray creatures and beasts, when to perform skill checks, how to do combat, really taking you by the hand through the system, you know, tricks for keeping heroes alive. That's a massive point which games masters need to learn. And then we're on to the monsters, which are a bit different as well. So we've got the Arbrager, a sort of giant six-legged spider creature, cess rats, bone crushers, giants, chomp flies, giant slimes, gibbon, gurgers, hippogriffs, hobgons, hyricors, clobbers, kite spiders, Crickner, which looks to be a small fairy, pink tail, so large rat with a pink tail, satyrs, schnees, skigs, therm riders. We've got trolls here, and then zombites, small tadpole-like creatures with needle-sharp tails. And then we're on to an adventure. So the Games Master, we're talking through major forces here. So what the forces of Dagnarus are up to, the various monster types which are leading this army across the civilized nations, Dominion Lords, and then we're on to the adventure, an introductory Sovereign Stone adventure, the Baron of Malangas March, which is a nice little adventure. I must comment that some of the pages, as you might have noticed, are a little faded. The print quality isn't fantastic in these books. If you've got a PDF, of course, that wouldn't be a problem, but in the printed ones, some pages are a little faded. Through the rest of the adventure, and then we've got some tables at the end. So we've got the weapons ratings, armor ratings, different difficulty numbers, very handy stuff for the Games Master, and then the spell list along with the difficulties. Followed up by an index and an advert for the novels set in the world by Margaret, Weis and Tracy Hickman of Dragonlance fame. So that's Sovereign Stone. Now, it's a very nice book. There's some fantastic ideas in there, and I really like the idea of it being set at a particular time in the timeline. That events are there to drive things forward. It's not just a random world that you drop your players into, like so many Dungeons & Dragons settings. Anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough, so thank you very, very much for watching. But most of all, as always, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.